Welcome to another Ultralight Airplane Design video from the Ultralight Airplane Workshop. I'm Leon. This video is a continuation of a video series and sub-series with the intention of designing the structure for the main spar, or the center spar, of the UWS-4 ultralight airplane. Now we've had several sub-series that we're working on. We've already done one series on calculating the distributed lift on the wing of the UWS-4. Right now we're working on a series on the distributed drag on the wing of the UWS-4, and the next series will be on the moment of the wing. In this particular video, we're going to work on, instead of figuring out some portion of drag that's being added, we're going to calculate some drag that's being subtracted. We're going to reduce the drag. Now in the previous video, and I'll put a link up here in the upper right hand corner for a link to the previous video. In the previous video, we calculated drag caused by gaps between the wing and flaps or wing and control surface. Well, there's actually a way to reduce that gap drag. And that's what we're going to figure out in this video. Now, I do want to put in a little caveat here. The reference I'm using only gives one example. And that example isn't really close to what we're doing, or at least the configuration isn't close. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. But at least we know that we can reduce the drag. I think is probably the most important result that we're going to get from this video. We just may not be able to come up with an accurate reduction. In these videos that we're doing here on drag, in fact, anything here on this center spar calculations, we're not using any AI. So we're not using AI to do any of the writing. That's just, in fact, there's no writing at all. I'm just kind of doing it based on the slides that we're going to be looking at here. So I'm just making it up as we go. Of course, it's just me talking, so there's no voice AI. I'm not using any AI to do drawings, and I'm not using any AI to do any of the actual design work, because over and over again, when I've tried to use AI to come up with some design stuff, it just tells me wrong information. But in the future, we might use a little AI for drawings. Now, if you've seen some of the previous videos we've done here on drag calculations, this little reference here will look familiar. And this is Horner's book on fluid dynamic drag. And this is one of the very few references where you can get some, at least starting points for calculating some of these interesting drags, like gap drag, rivet drag, skin overlap drag, that sort of thing. And it's very hard to find that kind of information in most other references, particularly text references. They just don't get into that detail. In this video, reference 3, Horner's book, is the only one we're using. So here's what we're talking about for trying to decrease the gap drag. In this illustration, we have an airfoil that is in kind of a light green. This happens to be the airfoil for the UWS-4 ultralight airplane. And this is more of a generic aileron back here that's essentially a plain aileron. So it'd be hinged right in here. There's pretty much a circular nose here. This dashed green is where we would remove portions of the airfoil for our gap. And then right back in here, this would be the back edge of the main wing. So our gap is in here between the wing and our aileron. So there's a gap all the way down through here. Now what I'm showing here is where at the front edge of the gap, we are going to reduce that airfoil thickness a little bit, make it thinner. What the airflow will do then is this blue arrow down here. So we've got roughly something close to the boundary layer coming along here, following the airfoil in. And then when it gets to the gap, we're probably going to get a little bit of turbulence. I didn't show any turbulence, but we're probably going to get a little bit of turbulence in here. So that's our drag normally. But then it's going to come over here to the nose of the aileron, and it's going to be accelerating because we're changing its direction fairly fast right here to follow that nose of the aileron. That's going to thin out the boundary layer just a little bit. It's going to re-energize it, in other words, speeding it back up, thinning it back out. It's going to reduce some of that turbulence. And then, of course, the airflow then follows the shape of the aileron backwards. So the idea is, by reducing this thickness in here, this airflow is going to come in. It's going to encounter the aileron, increase in speed, thin out boundary layer, reduce that turbulence, and then reduce the drag of our gap. So that's the idea. Now I've got a few things in here. I've got this delta H. That's how much we are reducing that thickness by. This T over here is our original thickness. And that comes right over here to the front edge of our gap and the original location on our airfoil. And so in this case, since our gap's roughly the same size on top and bottom, we're going to have that delta H be the same on the top and on the bottom. So there's basically 2 delta H's here. Now, I took this idea from Horner. That's his reference we just talked about, Fluid Dynamic Drag, Chapter 5, page 13 of Chapter 5, figure 28. Now, in their figure, they actually used a symmetrical airfoil, but the idea is still the same. Let's take a look at what happens to the section drag for the airfoil as we change this forward edge of the gap thickness, and particularly decreasing that thickness by delta H, actually by 2 delta H. Here's a graph that I've recreated from Horner's book, Fluid Dynamic Drag, and the graph is on page 513, so page 13 of chapter 5, figure 28. And so this graph is showing suction drag over here on the vertical axis. Down here on the horizontal axis, this is delta H divided by T, which is the thickness. And you can see this is negative because delta T is decreasing the thickness. So that's why these numbers are negative here. So if you were increasing thickness, we'd be over on this side. This blue line here represents the airfoil drag without a gap and without any change in thickness. So it's a constant down here. This red line represents the section drag, including the gap drag and including any change due to the thickness, the delta H. So down here at 0, this is where we have the gap, but the thickness has not changed at all. So that is with this green line here. We still have the gap and the green line here. So there's been no change in thickness yet. So that's what we've already calculated before in the last video when we were doing gap drags. So that would be right here at 0. So this is our gap drag. So this is our section coefficient without a gap plus gap drag right in here. Now as we increase that delta H, decreasing the thickness, you'll notice that our drag starts decreasing. And it keeps decreasing until we get to about minus 15. So if our delta H is 15% of our original thickness, we get our minimum drag here. Of course, if you increase the thickness, then you're going to get a whole lot more increase in drag over here. So you can see that thickness decreases our coefficient of drag, section drag, this amount right here. So we're still definitely getting some drag, but man, we could almost take it down to the drag without a gap at all. That's pretty impressive. Horner says you can also get a decrease in that gap drag by increasing the thickness of the control surface instead of decreasing the thickness of that forward edge of the gap. So instead of decreasing this thickness here, so you actually increase the thickness of this control back here. So you'd probably bring it up to something like this. It would still have roughly the same shape. It would just be thicker back here. Now, you don't get the same decrease in drag. Apparently it doesn't work quite as well. That might be in some cases a more practical solution, particularly if you'd like to make this modification to an existing airfoil. You don't want to necessarily have to redo this whole wing just to reduce this thickness here. It's probably easier to just rebuild your airfoil and make it thicker, or just add more material, which probably is the right solution, but it's certainly easier to make a modification to this small piece back here than this big whole part of the main airfoil up here. Unfortunately, Horner doesn't give us an idea of how much worse thickening the control is versus decreasing the thickness of the forward edge of that gap. So at least for what we're doing here at the moment, I'm going to assume they're roughly equivalent. Another thing to think about is this boundary layer on this top gap is going to be a little bit thicker than the boundary layer on the bottom gap. So it's very likely that the drag reduction on this top gap won't be as good as a drag reduction on the bottom gap. Now, Horner doesn't address that at all, so at least for now, I'm going to assume that they're the same. And I should mention, this is true for a cambered airfoil. For a symmetric airfoil, that's probably much closer to being the same. But for a cambered airfoil, you're going to have a thicker boundary layer on top and probably not as effective drag reduction on the top gap. But like I said, Horner doesn't say anything about that, so I'm going to assume drag reduction on both gaps is about the same as long as the gaps are about the same size. Well, here's some actual numbers from that graph. So the section drag of the airfoil without any gaps was 0.009, not 94, here, 0.009. And by the way, I should mention that the Reynolds number here is 1.4 million, and the airfoil thickness is 12%. Now, if we include the gap drag, that takes our drag up to 0.0126. But if we thin that front edge of the gap, we can get down to almost our original section drag of 0.0094. So 0.009 to 0.0094. Well, let's talk about percentages here. I'm going to be using these percentages before too long. Now, this number up here is saying that by using this thinning here at the front edge of the gap, we can reduce our overall drag, including gap drag, down to 76%. So that's basically this number down here, the 0.009. So 76% of 0.0216 is 0.0094, or 75%, round in there. But that's not percent I really want to look at. I want to look at the percent change of the gap drag by itself. So how much are we dropping down in this gap drag from the overall gap drag? So if you subtract the 0.009 from the 0.012, and then look at this percentage here, the subtraction difference here, it turns out that we can reduce the gap drag by 85%. Just this area right in here, this difference here, 85%. That is huge. So you have to kind of wonder, why don't people do this all the time? Now, on a lot of our ultralights, our gaps are pretty small. We have like plane flaps where the gap is super small, because with the plane flap, this back edge comes way around here and wraps in pretty close. So in that case, it's maybe not worth doing. But if you have a nose overhang where this nose can come up into the airstream here, then this gap up here is going to be pretty big. So this 85% is going to be important. So let's talk about the configuration I'm going to use on the aileron. This is what the aileron's going to look like. This is in the green area. Now this is not final. It's something I'm working with. It's to at least let me get some design elements in here. So number one, I plan to have a nose overhang. So that means the distance from our hinge to the leading edge is longer than the distance from the hinge to the surface. So that means this nose is sticking out. So whenever we deflect this surface, this nose is going to rise up into the boundary layer. Now in this case, I plan on thickening the aileron. So instead of reducing this thickness up here, I'm going to increase the thickness of the aileron. So I probably won't have quite as much drag reduction as if I had reduced this gap thickness up here, but I think I just prefer thickening the aileron. Since I don't know how much gap drag this will reduce, since I don't think it'll be as good as up here, I'm just going to assume they're the same. It'll probably end up closer to correct than if I just took a wild guess at how much the difference would be. Another thing is, this is a cambered airfoil, so that boundary layer will be thicker up here, and because of that, I'm guessing that, again, the drag reduction probably won't be as much as I would like, at least compared to what it would be on the bottom. And again, I have no way of trying to estimate how much that'll be, so I'm going to assume there's no difference on the boundary layer effects on that drag reduction. And just so you'll know, I'm going to assume that this gap down here isn't even worth thinking about. So I'm not going to do any special calculations on drag down here. And just in case you're wondering, I don't remember if I mentioned it before, I think I probably have. This sharp edge down here, when this aileron gets deflected up, that sharp edge is going to come down into the airstream down here, and it's going to create turbulence. And that's to try to help counter adverse yaw. So with this going up, we're decreasing the drag over here. Since we're decreasing lift, induced drag decreases. And the other side of the airplane, where this aileron deflects down, we're increasing lift, so we're increasing drag. Unfortunately, that's drag on the wrong direction, right? So the wing that's coming up is going to get dragged backwards. The wing going down will be moved forwards, and that's the opposite of what we want to have occur in the turn. So I'm trying to increase that drag on the wing that goes down to try to counter the drag on the other side because the increased lift. Another thing I'm probably going to do to deal with that issue is I'll do unbalanced deflection. So the full deflection going up will probably be something like 25 degrees up. Full deflection down will probably only be 15 degrees down. So I won't have as much lift occurring on the down deflecting side. So that'll help too. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to assume that with just one gap here on the top, and I would do the same thing on the flaps with the one gap on the bottom. With one gap, I've calculated that increase in drag due to that gap in the last couple videos. So what I'm going to assume is that increase in drag will be decreased by 85%. It probably wouldn't be that much, but I just don't have a good way of guessing it. Well, now we get to go to the spreadsheet and do this actual calculation, and let's see how much of a difference there is. Well, let's go back and change that gap drag calculation that we did before. Now, you may remember this here, where we did the lateral gap drag calculations. So you may remember this over here for the flap bottom gap, where we did the center section on the outer flap section. Now, I'm going to, for the moment, ignore that. For this video, we're just going to do the aileron, which is over here. And as a quick review, our coefficient drag for our little section of the wing we're doing calculations on. Remember, I've divided this aileron span up into several different sections. I calculated the coefficient drag for that little section. So now what I've done then is I've calculated a drag reduction. So I'm saying it's 85% reduction. So I just multiply this value by 0.85, and that is how much we're reducing it by. So we're reducing this 0.0073 by 0.0062. So you can see that's a lot of it. And so what's the result? So the result is we now have a coefficient drag that went from 0.0073 to 0.0011. So we got rid of a lot of that drag. Of course, again, that's assuming that that 85% is correct. It probably isn't. It's probably higher, but I just don't know how much. And of course, we can do the same thing for the flaps over here. Now, our coefficient here you can see is 0.003. So, what, roughly half of this 0.007. So it probably would be worth going to that flap and putting a little thickening on the bottom edge. The bottom edge is where our gap is. I don't yet know if I really want to do that. I'll have to think about that. So I think it's probably worth modifying the ailerons for sure to help reduce that drag that's out on the wingtips where it has that long moment arm to move that wing around. And I'm kind of up in the air whether I want to do it on the flaps. I might not do it. I'm not sure. So what is the next video? I am not sure yet. I've been doing some pondering on what I want to do. One thing potentially I could do is go ahead and calculate the drag, the change in section drag, when I deflect my aileron and when I deflect my flaps. Now, deflecting the aileron would only be really relevant up at high speeds, like dive speed or maybe even my cruise speed. Deflecting the flaps, though, I would want to know that drag so I can not only structurally make my flaps stronger, but I want to make sure that when those flaps are deflected, that it doesn't put excess strain on that spar. I want to make sure that spar is still strong enough. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I want to calculate it anyway. Another thing I thought about doing is wingtip drag. The shape of the wingtips can have an effect on the drag, and that's an even longer moment arm than the aileron, so I might take a look and see if that's worth calculating. So I got a few things to look at. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to do next. It won't be too long till I get into it. I've actually started looking at the flap deflection drag. I think those would be the last two things out of this miscellaneous drag that I want to look at. So when I finish miscellaneous drag, I'll finally get to induced drag. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. Till next time.